Hello and happy Friday. I wanted to send a quick video just to send an update about what we've been doing, talk a little bit more about information about our class and what it looks like specifically. This week I'm going to talk about grades and how retakes work. And then I also want to talk a little bit about parent involvement. And obviously, if you're watching this video, you're quite involved with your students' education. But I also want to answer that question in the subject line: why do I send so many emails? Or messages or videos or whatever it is. So let's get started with that. First off, thank you for watching this video, for engaging with my emails, for filling out my caregiver form, whatever it may be. I appreciate your support and your engagement with your students' education. To me, that's super important. Obviously, as a teacher, I want to connect with you. I want to update you with all the great news that your student has or any accomplishments that you have, while also, if need be, come up with any or share any obstacles or challenges that they may be facing. I fully believe that works both ways. If something happens within the student's life that's going to affect their academics, obviously your student way more than me, so please feel free to share anything. I'm in the process, if you filled out my caregiver form, I'm in the process of texting anybody who said they preferred to text. I'm going to obviously send another email as well, just to thank you and establish that communication, or whatever you said was your preferred method of communication. I'll respond back to you, share a little bit about, just acknowledging that I read your form or read your submission, and that I'm here for anything that you need. Before I was a teacher, I worked with an organization on Long Island where I was a parents organizer. And so my role was quite literally to engage parents and connect them to school districts and connect them to the principal or to a board of ed or to our organization's resources. And with that, right, become more involved in their students' education. That was at the high school level more so. It was a 7 to 12 school. So that was very interesting. It was a great experience. And obviously it informs a lot of my practices now too, where, for example, research shows that students get higher grades. Students are more self-confident. Students just have more success when parents are involved. And of course, parents include whatever adults are raising children or taking care of children. So that could be parent, step-parent, guardian, grandparent, foster parent, whoever it is who's doing the hard work of raising a child. So again, thank you. And I will continue to send updates as the year goes on. It usually is not weekly, but for the first month, I try to stay involved. And obviously, as things go on, I'll share some updates. Also related is how grades work. There was a little change over the summer across all 4 schools in our district for all world language classes. So the 2 middle schools and the 2 high schools, all world language classes have changed our grading system. And I wanted to address that just so before Thursday, when we have back to school night, you're a little bit more aware of these changes. But realistically, the changes are not very drastic, realistically, in the everyday things that we do. So last year and the years before, students had 4 categories in their grade book. They had tests and projects, which was 40%, quizzes was 30%, participation was 20%, and homework was 10%. And within that, right, you had a test, it went in that category. You had a quiz, it went in that category. This year, things are a little bit different, but it's more about the labels that we're using. And so there's only 3. And each is worth pretty much the same. It's 33, 33, and 34%. So the first category is interpretive communication. The second is interpersonal, and the third is presentational. And those are just 3 words to describe different types of communication that students are engaging in our classroom. And this reflects new standards from New York State. The old standards were older than I was. They were published before I was born. Not that much older. It was only 1 year before I was born, but they were old. And so New York State has updated them to be more in line with ACTFL, which is the American Council for Teaching of Foreign Languages, which is just a national organization for language classrooms. And so instead of having a test goes in the test category, we have a test in each category, quizzes, homework, they all fall into those categories. So for example, interpretive would be something like a listening quiz or reading comprehension activity. That would fall into interpretive, where you're interpreting something that's in Spanish, whether that's listening or reading. The second is interpersonal, and that's spontaneous communication between peers, strangers, teacher, adults, whoever it may be. So that might look like speaking, a speaking situation between a student and I. Maybe they're writing a letter to a friend. Any type of interpersonal type of, peer-to-peer, student-to-student communication. And the third is presentational, which is more formal. It might be an oral presentation. It might be writing a more formal paragraph, right? It's less so spontaneous. It's a bit more rehearsed and structured relative to interpersonal. And so those are the three categories. And again, they might have a presentation in front of the class, which goes under presentational. They might have a speaking situation that goes into interpersonal. They might have a reading comprehension homework that goes into interpretive. So we're doing similar things, if not the same thing. We're just using different language. So when you see that in Infinite Campus, please know that, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions, and I'll provide a little bit more information on back to school night, and once those assignments start to develop or roll in, I'll share a bit more information there as well. With grades, it's also important for me to talk about the fact that in my class, I allow retakes for any assignment, any missing homework, late, missing, unsubmitted homework, or if they got partial credit on a homework. Any quiz or test or project can be retaken or resubmitted for full credit. And the premise of why I do that is so that students don't feel pressure. They don't feel overpressured. So I want them to do their best. I want them to study. We're going to hold them accountable, absolutely. But at the same time, oftentimes students will come in, they will feel the anxiety of a test, shut down, or maybe they had 4 other tests and they weren't able to study as much as they wanted for this one, and maybe they'd try to look at another student's paper, or if they're doing a project or homework, they want it to be perfect because they need a perfect score, and so they're gonna use Google Translate. But obviously, at the end of 8th grade, we have our FLAX exam, our checkpoint exam, which is a high school level exam that goes on their high school transcript and is a pretty serious test. And I want them to continue to learn and learn and learn until that point. And so if they get a grade back on a quiz and they're not happy with it, I want them to go back and I want them to study and I want them to learn that material and then do it again and master that skill or master that concept or master that vocab set so that when it comes to the test at the end of the year, they're really comfortable and confident with it. So it's kind of dual purpose. Obviously, it's a bit more work for me because I have to create different versions of tests and quizzes. I'm providing, obviously, extra help and support for those retakes and all of that. But it's way more beneficial for your students. So again, any quiz, test, assignment, anything like that, students can retake for full credit anytime within the quarter. The one exception that I always tell students is if they attempt to cheat or use a translator, because obviously that kind of defeats the purpose of it. And that shouldn't be an issue. It's usually not an issue. Maybe on the first homework, they'll try and then they realize that I'm serious about it, and that's that. But retakes are always given. All right, I think that's it. But we're already at 10 minutes, or almost at 10 minutes. The last thing is that I have 2 8th grade courses. So one is Mastery Level Spanish, one is Spanish 7-8. So in our Mastery Level course, we were looking at the alphabet, the sounds that the letters make, how to spell words, all of that. So you may have seen your students or heard your students making all the different letters in Spanish, spelling different words, practicing, singing our alphabet song. I hope they had a lot of fun doing so. It's been stuck in my head. I apologize if it's stuck in yours. And today, actually, I'll go to my other class too, my Spanish 7-8 course. What we've been doing is working on greetings, days of the week, months of the year, all these different, back in review of 7th grade, just so we can get ahead and get a head start on everything. So today we took a little bit more of a fun Friday. We played games. Actually, we've been playing games all of the 2 weeks, but today was GimKit day where students were able to play a few review games for 7th grade material. So there's that. Yesterday also started, the 15th started Hispanic Heritage Month, so we talked about that. We did a little map game, learning about where the Spanish-speaking countries are. Yesterday was the Independence Day for 5 different Central American countries: Honduras, El Salvador, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, and Guatemala. Today is Mexico's Independence Day, and actually later this weekend and next week, we celebrate a few more Independence Days as well, which is why Hispanic Heritage Month starts in the middle of a month, not September 1st. So there's that. I believe that's all my updates. I might have some more in the text, but this is already almost a 12-minute video, so I appreciate the time that you take to watch these. Please feel free to share any feedback, and yeah, thank you. Have a great rest of your weekend. Adios.